The intelligence briefing at the Reich Chancellery on July 15, 1940, included assessments from Abwehr operatives in neutral countries reporting that Britain had mobilized over 1 million men into the local defense volunteers organization that had been renamed the Home Guard. Adolf Hitler reviewed the information with initial dismissal based on assumption that hastily assembled civilian militia armed with hunting rifles and improvised weapons could not constitute serious military obstacle to Wehrmacht invasion force. The detailed reports that followed through summer and autumn documented that British Home Guard was being equipped with military weapons, was receiving training from regular army instructors, and was being organized into units that would defend against airborne landings and would contest any German invasion force that established beachhead on British soil. The realization that Operation Sea Lion would face not just regular British Army divisions, but also million-strong civilian defense force distributed across entire country, created additional complexity for invasion planning that already faced significant obstacles. The creation of the local defense volunteers had occurred immediately after Dunkirk evacuation, when Britain faced realistic prospect of German invasion with minimal forces available to defend the home islands. The broadcast by Secretary of State for War Anthony Eden on May 14th, calling for men between ages of 17 and 65 to volunteer for home defense duties, had produced overwhelming response. Within first 24 hours, over 250,000 men had enrolled. Within weeks, the number exceeded 500,000. By summer, the organization that Churchill renamed the Home Guard had enrolled over 1 million volunteers, representing every town and village across Britain. General Franz Halder, Chief of the Army General Staff, had received intelligence summaries about Home Guard from multiple sources, including aerial reconnaissance photographs showing defensive positions being constructed, signals intelligence intercepts discussing Home Guard deployments, and reports from agents who had observed training exercises. The composite picture that emerged was of civilian force that was being rapidly militarized and that would complicate German invasion operations in ways that planning had not fully anticipated. The initial assessment that Home Guard represented negligible military value was being revised as evidence accumulated about the scale of mobilization and the seriousness with which British authorities were organizing civilian defense. The defensive concept that British Home Guard embodied was fundamentally different from regular military formations and created challenges for conventional military planning. The Home Guard units were organized locally and knew the terrain intimately. The members were dispersed across the country rather than concentrated in barracks where they could be targeted. The units could mobilize rapidly because members lived and worked in the areas they defended. The combination of local knowledge, rapid mobilization, and dispersed organization meant that German forces landing anywhere in Britain would immediately face armed opposition from defenders who knew every road, building, and field. Colonel Erwin von Lehausen, serving in the Abwehr intelligence service, prepared detailed assessment of British Home Guard capabilities based on information gathered from various sources. The report noted that initial equipment shortages were being addressed through deliveries of rifles and light machine guns. The American shipment of 500,000 rifles in summer 1940 had provided weapons to equip significant portion of Home Guard. The British production of Sten submachine guns was adding to available weapons. The improvised weapons that had characterized early Home Guard, shotguns, pikes, Molotov cocktails, were being supplemented by military-grade equipment. The training that Home Guard received was documented in reports from observers who had monitored exercises conducted in southern England where invasion was expected. The training emphasized ambush tactics, roadblock construction, defending buildings, and delaying enemy advance. The instruction was provided by regular army officers and by veterans from the First World War who possessed combat experience. The quality of training varied considerably between units, but the overall trajectory was toward increasingly professional force that understood its role in defending against invasion. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the Abwehr, briefed Hitler on the implications of Home Guard mobilization for Sea Lion planning. The briefing noted that German invasion forces landing on British beaches would face not only regular army divisions, but also local Home Guard units that would contest advance from the moment landing occurred. The road networks that German forces would need to advance inland would be obstructed by roadblocks defended by Home Guard. The bridges would be prepared for demolition. The crossroads would be fortified. Every village would contain armed men who would resist German advance. The cumulative effect would be to slow German advance and to create opportunities for British regular forces to counterattack. The comparison with German experiences in France highlighted the differences that Home Guard created. The French civilian population had largely evacuated ahead of German advance or had remained passive. The roads had been clogged with refugees but had not been systematically defended. The villages had been occupied without resistance. The advance had been contested by French army units but not by armed civilian population. The situation in Britain would be fundamentally different. The civilian population would not evacuate, but would remain and fight. The advance would be contested at every crossroads and in every town. The distinction between military and civilian targets would be blurred. Field Marshal Walter von Brauchitsch, Commander-in-Chief of the Army, received operational assessments about how Home Guard would affect invasion timeline. The planning for Sea Lion assumed that German forces landing on south coast beaches would advance rapidly to seize key objectives before British reinforcements arrived. The calculations of advance rates were based on encountering resistance from regular army units at predictable defensive positions. The addition of Home Guard defending throughout the depth of the battlefield meant that German forces would face continuous resistance rather than encountering opposition at specific defensive lines. The effect on advance rates could not be precisely calculated, but would certainly slow German progress. The propaganda value that British government derived from Home Guard mobilization was noted in intelligence assessments. The sight of over 1 million citizens volunteering to defend their country contradicted German propaganda claims that British people wanted peace and that Churchill's government lacked popular support. The newsreels showing Home Guard training and the radio broadcasts featuring Home Guard members demonstrated British determination to resist invasion. The morale effect on British population of knowing that neighbours and family members were armed and prepared to defend the homeland was significant. General Alfred Jodl, Chief of Operations at OKW, prepared memorandum for Hitler analysing the military implications of Home Guard in context of overall Sea Lion feasibility. The memorandum noted that Home Guard represented additional complication for operation that already faced significant challenges. The Royal Navy remained powerful and would contest German naval crossing. The Royal Air Force had not been defeated despite Luftwaffe offensive. The British Army had been reinforced and re-equipped after Dunkirk. The addition of million-strong Home Guard created yet another obstacle. The cumulative effect of these factors suggested that Sea Lion success was uncertain and that costs would be high even if landing succeeded. The intelligence about specific Home Guard preparations in invasion zones provided concrete details about what German forces would encounter. The coastal areas of Kent, Sussex and Hampshire, where landings were planned, were defended by Home Guard units numbering tens of thousands. The units had constructed pillboxes and fortified positions covering the beaches and the roads leading inland. The preparations included anti-tank obstacles, barbed wire and minefields. The defensive works were being improved continuously. The reconnaissance photographs showed increasing sophistication in defensive preparations as summer progressed. Hitler's response to intelligence about Home Guard evolved through summer and autumn of 1940. The initial dismissal of civilian militia as militarily insignificant was replaced by recognition that organized armed civilian population created genuine complication for invasion planning. The decision to postpone Sea Lion from September to later in autumn was influenced partly by the air superiority question, but also by accumulating evidence that invasion would face more resistance than initial planning had assumed. The further postponement to spring 1941 and the eventual cancellation of Sea Lion reflected multiple factors, including the inability to achieve air superiority and the naval risks. But the Home Guard represented additional element that contributed to the overall assessment that invasion risks were unacceptable. The lessons that German military drew from British Home Guard experience were applied to planning for partisan warfare in occupied territories and to thinking about defending Germany itself if the war turned against Germany. The recognition that armed civilian population could significantly complicate military operations influenced German anti-partisan operations in occupied Soviet Union and Yugoslavia. The ruthless measures employed against partisans reflected partly the understanding that civilian resistance could be militarily significant. The later organization of Volkssturm in 1944 as German equivalent of Home Guard demonstrated that German leadership had absorbed the lesson that civilian mobilization could contribute to defense even if ultimate outcome was defeat. Colonel Adolf Heusinger, operations officer at OKH, prepared analysis comparing British Home Guard mobilization to potential German civilian defense if Allied forces invaded Germany. The analysis noted that British advantage had been time to organize and train Home Guard before invasion occurred. German disadvantage would be that Allied forces were already advancing and that organization of civilian defense would occur under combat conditions. The British had mobilized civilians when invasion was threat, but had not occurred. German civilian mobilization would occur when invasion was already underway. The difference in circumstances suggested that German civilian defense would be less effective than British Home Guard had promised to be. The propaganda that German leadership directed at British Home Guard attempted to portray the organization as evidence of British desperation and as violation of laws of war. The argument was that arming civilians and organizing them for combat made them legitimate military targets and potentially endangered civilian population as a whole by blurring distinction between combatants and non-combatants. The propaganda had limited effect because British population viewed Home Guard as legitimate defense against invasion, and because German credibility on questions of laws of war was questionable, given German conduct in Poland and in other occupied territories. The strategic assessment that emerged through late 1940 was that British Home Guard contributed to overall defensive posture that made invasion increasingly risky. The 1 million Home Guard members represented force that would not decisively defeat German invasion, but that would delay and disrupt German operations sufficiently to provide time for British regular forces to respond. The combination of Royal Navy power, Royal Air Force resistance, British Army divisions, and Home Guard civilian defence created layered defence that would contest German invasion at sea, in the air, on the beaches, and throughout the interior of the country. The cumulative effect of all these defensive layers convinced German military leadership that Sea Lion's success was uncertain enough that pursuing the operation was inadvisable when easier strategic alternatives existed. When Hitler learned Britain had ready 1 million Home Guard, the information contributed to the complex calculus that led to postponing and eventually cancelling Operation Sea Lion. The Home Guard alone did not determine the decision. The naval and air factors were more significant, but the civilian mobilization represented additional obstacle that increased the risks and the potential costs of invasion. The recognition that German forces landing in Britain would face not just regular army opposition, but also armed civilian resistance throughout the country, contributed to assessment that invasion would be costly and difficult, even if initial landings succeeded. The British Home Guard never faced the invasion it was created to resist. The organisation continued through the war, serving in air defence roles, guarding vulnerable points and providing manpower for various home defence duties. The mobilization demonstrated British determination and capability to defend the home islands even when military situation appeared desperate. The psychological effect on British morale and on German invasion planning was significant, even though the military capabilities of Home Guard were never tested in actual combat against German invasion force. The million volunteers who joined Home Guard represented cross-section of British society, including men too old or too young for regular military service, those in reserved occupations, and those medically unfit for army service. The organisation provided way for these men to contribute to defence and to feel that they were actively resisting the threat of invasion. The social impact of Home Guard participation was to strengthen community bonds and to create sense of shared purpose that contributed to British resilience through the difficult period when invasion threat was most acute. The intelligence that German leadership received about Home Guard was generally accurate in describing the scale of mobilization and the organization of units, but tended to underestimate the morale and psychological effects that Home Guard had on British determination to resist. The military assessments focused on weapons, training, and tactical capabilities which were measurable. The harder to quantify effects on British will to resist and on German perceptions of invasion costs were equally important. The sight of millions of civilians volunteering to defend their country signaled British resolve in ways that influenced German strategic calculations, even if those effects were not captured in formal intelligence assessments. When Hitler learned Britain had ready 1 million Home Guard in summer 1940, the information became one of many factors that shaped the decision not to attempt invasion of Britain. The military significance of Home Guard in purely tactical terms was debatable, but the strategic significance of civilian mobilization on this scale was clear. Britain was prepared to defend itself with all available resources, including arming and organizing its civilian population. The costs and risks of invading a country where million citizens were armed and prepared to resist added to the naval and air challenges, and contributed to the ultimately sound decision to abandon Sea Lion and to pursue strategic alternatives, including the invasion of the Soviet Union, that proved to be Germany's greatest strategic mistake.